you know, I do have to, I try to schedule time for myself, you know, and like try to schedule, and and it's important, like, you know, and I kind of take this as like a CEO kind of like look to it, because people are like, you know, oh, like the big CEOs always like schedule their like stuff at like 4:30 in the morning, and then they go out their day and they have their schedule perfectly planned in a sense, you know. But like I've always tried to like make sure that I always have time for myself somewhere in the day, no matter what it is, even if it's like 30 seconds or like, or sorry, even if it's like 30 minutes or like, you know, an hour, just like that time alone, just to like get my thoughts together and just to really just come to one, you know, and just understand what I'm going to do next and this and that. Like, you know, I always want that kind of time alone in a sense.
Hello, my name is Mate Glamazina, and you have tuned into the In-Betweeners Checkup. We are now at episode 19, and today I am joined by Zach Feldman, who is all the way over in New York. I think it's Thursday evening over there, so great time to be sitting.
You're a time traveler.
I'm a time traveler. Yes. I have been back in time. I've actually been over in New York, but it was some years ago. Yeah, I like to think I'm a step ahead, but at the same time I'm often late, so who knows. In any case, so listen, I've got Zach Feldman on the show today, and I just want to thank you first and foremost for taking the time to not only have a chat with myself, but share your story with those others out there that are listening. Kind of having a bit of a look into your background and sort of seeing, I guess, what you've chosen to do in your life and what you've chosen, I think, to continue doing despite everything else that life throws at you, is really important. And
thank you.
For those people who perhaps have thoughts around what they would like to do but are struggling with the action or the discipline or just maintaining the course, I feel like this can offer some insight to them. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Zach, and you can tell us a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Zach Feldman. I've been in film, radio, and television for over, you know, ever since I was in middle school, really. It all started kind of just, you know, playing with a camera and kind of messing around with my friends. And then sure enough, it grew into just, you know, maybe I can actually do some fun stuff with this. Maybe I can be a little more creative. You know, I was never the book kind of guy in school. Like I never actually was great at grades, and you know, I was never good at math or science or anything like that, but I was always creative, and I was always trying to envision what I could do bigger than and better, you know. And I found film and I found radio as a good kind of means of just being able to express myself. And I found that I was really good at it in a sense. I don't know how, but I was really good at it in some way. I was all self-taught, you know, just trial and error, going back and forth on different things. And, you know, I had an inspirational teacher, Audrey Miller, from Oceanside High School, who helped me out to help create my dream in a sense, to be a better filmmaker, and just be a better presenter in general. She was like a mentor to me. And from there, it's just been, you know, creating content that I love, and I try my best to pursue in, and to, you know, always try to invoke emotion out of, you know. And it's just been a fun journey ever since. I really don't ever see myself ever going to work. I kind of like see myself as just enjoying life in a sense, you know. It's been such a fun ride, and there's still so much more to come.
That's awesome, Jack. And listen, I mean, yeah, I feel like in some respects you've given me the highlight reel, and there's probably been a few bumps along the road, which we can go into. I guess
100%.
You talked about finding this, I'm going to call it activity or space that you enjoyed, that you were good at, and there were areas that perhaps you weren't as strong at school. I guess what made you decide to not just have it as a hobby, but decide to really put your time and energy and, I'm going to say, build something more out of it? And what obstacles did you face at that point?
So I always knew that I wanted to pursue it ever since I started, you know, just messing around with a camera, you know, back in middle school, high school. I found the inspiration to do it really just because in all honesty, like the start of everything was just really just the idea of YouTube was starting to become a huge popular thing, and like I'm thinking to myself like, oh, how do I become famous? Because the kid at like middle school always just wants to become famous, and he wants to be this, the center of attention in a sense. And I started to do this podcast. Well, it wasn't really a podcast at the time. It was more of like a live stream. There was a thing called Stick'em, and I would do this thing called Z Radio. Um, and it was then when I was just kind of like playing around with music and trying to become this like fake on-air jock kind of guy. And from there, it just kind of sparked into just continuing to grow and make it better and try to work on it and see what was wrong with it and like buy more equipment to fund into it. Like I would get side jobs just to fund my own passion. Like I worked at like a Red Mango for like a hot minute just to get the cash to buy myself like an awesome camera, or to buy myself like a mixing board, or like and then from there then I would build up to then go DJ somewhere, like some kid's birthday party or whatever. And then just keep building and building and building until I was satisfied with where I was with, the equipment, with all the resources and stuff like that. So it just really just kept on building up. And then also big thing too, connections. That was a huge thing too, getting all my connections through, just networking and being out there in the world and doing things just to do them because they were fun. Like I would literally say, oh, hey, you have like an event coming up, like let me just film it, I don't care, like why not, I'll do it. And this is when I wanted to get more experience, and it just, and that's really what strove me to become, more passionate and more engaging into the field of film, radio, TV.
All right, that's great. And I think were there I mean, you talked about sort of those side jobs to basically fund your passion in essence. And I think there's always, that balance between doing what we want to do and being able to pay the bills at the end of the day, and trying to get that balance right is often a difficult one. Perhaps you're fortunate in some respects starting that journey quite early in life and not necessarily having some of the financial commitments that we do have later on.
I'll be honest with you. Like I hated the side gigs. Obviously anybody would hate the side gigs they're doing, but like I really hated it to the point where like, I worked at a movie theater once just for like a week, and then I quit. Like, and I told them, I was like, oh, I have an internship coming up, and they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, I had no internship. I was just like, no, forget you, like get away. Like I was over it, and it was just because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on the radio, and I wanted to also edit and film for a living, and being so motivated by that really helped me to strive to be on the radio and be on, be in television and be in where I am today, in a sense. The connections helped, of course, but the passion is really where it strived from. And that's something that if you don't have the passion for the media industry, and I always tell this to anybody who ever wants to get into it, like if you don't have the passion to be in the media industry, then it's then honestly it's going to be a very rough time for you.
Can I ask what your parents thought of this early on in the piece?
They were always supportive. My dad, he was even more supportive than anything in the world. He actually, me and him, we were downstairs in the basement once, and we built an entire studio set up for me to like kind of work on doing stuff. He's an electrician, so he actually built up walls in our already made basement just so I can have like this kind of soundproof room. And this is before Hurricane Sandy. Hurricane Sandy kind of wiped it away. But for that moment of time when that happened, it was just an experimental room, really, just where I was able to help produce, create new content, and kind of see where I wanted to go like later on in life. And I'm always grateful for him and my mom and my whole family, really, just for always supporting me in a sense. Like my mom, she would put up like she actually like helped me buy my first camera. When I was like so close to the amount of money that I had, like I was so close, and she just was like, all right, don't worry about it, I got you. And it was like, at the time, it was I think it was like $200 more I needed. but but when you're like 14 and trying to buy that camera, you think it's like, oh, it's $1 million she's giving you,
Yeah.
So I'm always so grateful for them. They really are the most supportive parents that you can have.
That's awesome. And look, I think it is really important. I mean, you mentioned you had a mentor there as well, and your parents to have. Well, and you talked about the beauty of networking. I mean, having some kind of, I'm going to say, support crew that are there helping you, picking you up, or giving you that little bit of encouragement, or that extra few dollars when you need it, because you can't do it alone. Perhaps you could, but you certainly would take a damn sight longer to get there. You mentioned, I guess, natural disasters, which it's just something that seems to happen in the world more so now than ever. But what other obstacles did you kind of face in your journey to get where you are?
Yeah, I mean, I myself have ADHD in general, as a, just, and if you don't know what ADHD is, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. And most people I've found out in this kind of creative field kind of have that same disorder. It basically just, it just drives you to always like kind of move and always be active in a sense. But it's not great in the testing or the school kind of atmosphere. It's not really a great thing to have there. But that's always been my thing to kind of say like, oh, that's on the side of me. That doesn't really define who I am. That's something that I can overcome and overachieve from. And that's just one part of me that it's just like, oh yeah, it's there, but like I'm not gonna let that define me in a sense. And over the years I've been able to cope with it more. But it's always nice to think about it and be like, oh yeah, I'm already at my point in my life where like I'm working for like a major company. I'm producing, said film, said project, and I'm doing all this other stuff. But yet I'm living with something that people were just like, yeah, this kid's never going to be normal in a sense, and it's like, oh yeah, this is something that, this is something that, you just gotta get through. And and I guess I realized later on in life, it's like, those little things don't really shape you. They're just there as like a roadblock in a sense. They're just there because that's how life is. That's just how you're born with the body you're built. So it's like, once you know how to overcome that or work with it, then you can succeed and people will see you in the right light that you want them to see you.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And listen, they kind of, I mean, like I don't have ADHD as such, but I appreciate what you're talking about there. I mean, I've spoken to a number of people with all sorts of conditions, and one thing that kind of comes out that I sort of want to share, and it was actually from my last podcast, is a guy, Jeff Martinet Jr., who said, it's not a disability, it's a different ability.
Yeah.
I
agree.
And it's understanding how to work with it and not against it, because when you work against it, you're in essence working against yourself, and it is part of you. And once you can accept that and embrace it and use it as an ability like any other ability, you can create real value in the world. And that's exactly what you're doing now. You had this environment which was very structured, and it didn't allow you to be you, and you suffered under that. And you've gone into an environment which allows that to flourish, and you're doing really well. So
thank you. That means a lot. Thank you.
Well done to you, man.
I agree completely on that statement. Like, it's like, I was able to, and I think anybody who ever suffers with ADHD or with any type of attention disorder, to really just try to focus in on it and see, what can I do to you know, what will benefit me to, you know, to get past it, or just to, you know, or to cope with it in a sense, you know. um for me, actually, it's funny enough, I consider myself now the fastest editor in the world, because I'm just so quick with my hands and able to, you know, move around and stuff like that. um but you know, other people, you know, who suffer from it, you know, just like in general, it's, you know, maybe standing still, maybe just, you know, not being able to pay attention all the time to certain sentences, you know. These are all things that I deal with too, like on a regular basis. Like remembering names is just like the worst thing for me in the entire world. But you know, you learn how to, cope with it, and you learn how to get past it to be a better, you, in a sense, and to not only not let, and again, I like that quote, not to let it define you, but to, you know, but to go against the grain in a sense.
Yeah. So if I can ask, what sort of exercises or tools perhaps have you incorporated into your own life to help uh, with managing or channeling that energy?
Yeah. Honestly, you know, doing things that I love is what really helped me help me get past the challenges and the and coping with it. Um, you know, like again, doing film work, doing radio work, editing something, producing something, making something creative, writing a story, you know, stuff like that. Anything that has to do with this crazy field of film and radio and television production, it's just that's what really gets my brain going and keeps me motivated and focused into the mind, and focused into the creative side of everything. You know, it's really that's really been like my go-to, I guess, superpower in a sense. This kind of go past it.
Yeah.
But you know, other people have other different ticks, you know, and different types of ways to cope with it. You know, either, you know, just standing there rubbing something in your hand, or like playing with something in your hand, just kind of like trying to get rid of that kind of urge to move around, or urge to do something else in a sense. You know, sometimes I'll grab a stress toy in a sense, and I'll just kind of use that and play with my hands, just to hold myself back a little bit. But you know, there's stuff like that. There's like different types of little methods you can do, you know, to cope with.
Yeah.
And it all just comes to, if you, for somebody who just is dealing with it, they'll figure it out on their own.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, you talk about the, I guess, the creativity aspect that what you're doing allows for, but I also think that there's a lot of structure that you have to work with in terms of within the editing, and there's repetition, and perhaps not quite so much variety there, but because of this overarching passion you have for the space, that you're allowed, you're, I guess, able to channel into those aspects despite them potentially not necessarily being a perfect match with your situation, if that makes sense.
Sort of. Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I never thought I'd be on the radio ever in New York. I was on 106.1 BLI. I was an on-air jock when I was a freshman in college. Literally, I jumped up on it at the opportunity by going to like what was an internship fair, going to a booth and be like, listen, you know, where I was going at school was just way too expensive. I need to figure out where I can get some extra cash from. And I was like, you know what? I love radio. Let's try to get on the radio. And I went up to every single booth. I was like, listen, I'm not here for an internship. I'm here for a job. And that was the super ballsiest thing I can ever say to somebody who's just looking for interns.
Yeah.
But one station, 106.1 BLI, went for the interview. They hired me on the spot as a part-time jock there on the air. And that was kind of like my like breakthrough to get into just creating content and being, you know, and getting into that more professional space in a sense.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many different places I've worked too. Like I worked at 106.1 BLI, worked at 102.3 WBAB, 95.5 PLJ was a huge station here in New York that just recently closed and was sold. But they were like the number one. They were part of the number one market here in New York City. We were part of that station. and then in the media space, working in news, working at New York One, and working at News 12, Long Island, and now WWE. It's just been, I never thought a kid with ADHD could ever work at WWE, but I guess he can, and I guess he can strive to be where he wants to be in life at the age of 25, which is just working for a company that he's loved ever since, having that big passion and drive for wrestling in general.
Yeah.
It's amazing because, it's like, I always thought, this would hold me back, but it never did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to ask, so how many stations did you pitch your idea of working for before one said yes?
So I went to Fox News. There was a bunch of them there. It was like Fox. It was like, there was some little ones. I can't even remember them. It was such a long time ago. But I just remember Fox was there, and there was this woman who was from the Fox Business section. And when I went to go shake her hand, she had like the weirdest, it was like super velvety, like she like lotioned like every single freaking day, like that kind of hand. And it was just disgusting. I was so grossed out by it. I was like, what are you handing me? Like it felt like a piece of meat. Like I wasn't sure what I was holding, but it was her hand. As like I was shaking her hand, like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, like introducing in a sense.
Yeah.
That was like the greatest, that was like the creepiest memory I have from that. But yeah, it was really just going up there and being like, like just going, giving my business card, and trying to make that connection in a sense, getting their business card, once meeting with them, sending them a follow-up email. There's all different things you need to do when you want to try to establish a relationship. And that comes with business strategy too.
Yeah.
And just learning the whole business and learning how to become the business, the business side of yourself.
Yeah. So I mean, for people at this time who are perhaps struggling with the current dynamic that exists in the world, and I would argue that connection with others is more important than ever.
Yeah.
How would you suggest people go about that?
See, it's hard because you can't have that face-to-face connection anymore, except for if you go on Zoom or if you go on, any other type of virtual cam site, in a sense where you're looking face-to-face with somebody. I would say, honestly, the best way to go about that is really just, send someone an email, send someone a text, send someone, some type of form of, communication. Calling them is always the best thing to do too. If you want to strive to make more connections out there, try to set up like a meeting with somebody, virtually. Try to talk to them face to face. Even if it is through Zoom, try to talk to them, just get their insight on things, get their opinion, and pursue whatever you want to do with them, in a sense. That's really the best way you can go about it. It's kind of hard because, we are living in this, pandemic world right now, where connecting with somebody who's not physically with you is just kind of obsolete at the moment, so it's kind of hard to try to pinpoint where the direction of making connections is going. But I will say, I did see online that there was some like, meetups in a sense, where it'd be like a Zoom meeting, but like with all people who want to connect with each other in the media industry, or just like in any type of industry. And that was kind of like a social hour they usually do, but it was on a Zoom. So I mean, there's stuff like that out there too.
Yeah.
But it's all just, you gotta really look out there and see what's going on in the space of where you're working.
Yeah. And like I think you've touched on something really important there, and it's irrespective of whether there's physical contact or not, relationships start with conversations.
Yeah.
And they build from there. So whether it's a conversation in person, which is obviously the ideal, or over Zoom, or via some other networking platform, I think we need to be having those conversations. And sometimes it can be a challenge to initiate that conversation. And there's so much, I'm trying to think of the word.
There's just so much there's just so much like that's missing from like the human contact, right?
Yeah.
Like just the fact that having like it being person to person, it really just, there's so much there that like that's missing in a sense. And I feel that every single day I'm working with my coworkers at WWE, and I'm working on different video projects with them, but we're doing it all virtually. And it sucks because you miss that, you know, hanging out and that friendship vibe that you get with your coworkers. And it takes a toll on you really with with trying to um make that connection special, you know, and trying to instill a friendship with people, you know, who are just coworkers, but you know, you want them to be more, you want them to be, you know, close colleagues or, you know, best friends in the end, you know, in a sense. And it's hard to make that connection still happen when you're just talking over text. But, you know, I mean, it's still, you're still connecting with them. There's still a human on the other side of that computer, you know, and there's still that kind of, you still have that window to them. It's just now it's in front of a computer with a webcam, you know, 300 miles away somewhere, you know. But hey, at least you're not, at least we're not living in like 1800s where you weren't able to do that, you know.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. That I feel like people sort of criticize technology in some respects because of the fact that it makes things impersonal, but in a dynamic like this, it is the perfect tool for communicate. Well, to be honest, it's really the only tool we have available for communication. Hey, so I'm keen to, I guess you had this vision, you had this dream, and it sounds like you're in a really good space at this time.
Thank you.
Have you got any thoughts around where the future might take you, or where you would like to take the future, I guess, given your focus and your dedication to the cause?
Yeah. I mean, so like, I mean, my intro to the show, I really didn't really explain what else I had. But I have this radio station called Z Radio Live. It's at zradiolive.com. I have my production company, which is ZLF Productions. You can check that out at zlfproductions.com. And then I'm working on the side. I'm working full time at World Wrestling Entertainment. You know, there's just so many different aspects of where I'm going in this field, and I always saw myself as just being a film, radio, TV guy, which just means I'll be in radio, I'll be in television, and I'll be in film, just doing something. The one thing I'm missing right now is that film aspect, and I really, really want to start creating, hopefully a full length movie, maybe just a short film, something that kind of gets my own film reel in a sense out there, because I've created a lot of television, and I love television. I love creating content for digital, and I love creating content audio form too. It's just I feel like I need to expand myself more in that that filmmaking aspect, and hopefully one day I'll sit down and have some time, and actually this is the perfect time to do it. Write down a script and write down an idea and get it made somehow or somewhere.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, the way you've made things happen in your life so far, I have no question that you will be able to achieve that. What I do wonder is whether you're going to have the time, but like you say, now's as good a time as any. I've got to ask, what do you do in your downtime if you do actually have any?
Yeah, I mean, I barely have any downtime, but like, you know, when I'm on my downtime hanging out with friends, you know, I'm playing video games. You know, I honestly, it's funny. I mean, even in my downtime, I'm still creating content. Like I'm still just kind of like sitting here because where I am right now. Actually, this is my house. You know, because you know lockdown, we're stuck here. But I'm literally just by my computer, just making sure the radio station's up. You know, seeing different music songs playing, like, you know, check out the different music happening right there, see what I can add to the station. You know, but just trying to hang out with friends and spend some quality time with my girlfriend and you know, just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this quarantine really has changed things in a sense for the better, but also for the worse for me. You know, I'm working from home now. But I have more time to do other things as well. And actually, I've been working on learning how to cook more, which is awesome.
Okay.
So that's been pretty cool. Yeah.
Cool. What's your signature dish?
Oh, I got a cast iron now.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, you don't make anything in the cast iron except for steak or like, you know, or chicken, whatever.
Yeah.
So I've been working on perfecting steak, flaming young. I think I've got it down pretty good. I have like a natural talent I'm starting to feel like, which is pretty cool.
Awesome. And look, I mean, I wouldn't say I was a chef, but I do enjoy my cooking, and I see that as a form of creativity in a lot of ways, and
Mhm.
and it's an art form just with a different medium. And to be fair, it's only
Yeah.
temporarily, but you can indulge in the senses, not only the visual, but you've also got the taste and the smell as such. So and I guess if you're using cast iron, potentially sound as well. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Are you so in New Zealand? Is there a specific dish that I need to indulge in that we don't maybe have in the United States?
I'm trying to think because I have actually spent some time in the States. Oh,
I mean, we have burgers, we have
yeah,
hot dogs, you know,
yeah.
we have.
So I don't know if the States really gives value to the meat pie.
To the meat pie.
Yeah.
Is it like shepherd's pie?
No, well, you can get shepherd's pie, but it's sort of burger-sized pies. So not a large pie, like
Oh,
burger-sized meat pies, and you can
okay.
have all sorts of varieties. So I mean, you've obviously got your
So it's kind of like oh, what is it called? It's kind of like oh, I can't think of the name of it, but like chopped meat in a sense.
yeah.
Okay.
And so I mean, but we have all sorts of pies. So you can have like for example, you can have like a steak and cheese pie, or you can
Ooh.
have a mince pie, and that's I guess like
Mhm.
minced meat. But then you can have like a butter chicken pie, or you can have a bacon and egg pie. So you can pretty much have any
Oh my
meal you
God.
want, but it's covered in
So
pastry.
I literally just looked it up right now and I see it. So it literally is a pie. Like it's
Yeah,
not. I'm not thinking. This is not what I was thinking. I was thinking it was like you're calling it a pie, but like it's actually just chopped meat like on a plate. But like no, this is like actually with the pie crust and everything. Like this is
yeah,
a straight pie, but like you put beef and cheddar in it.
yeah, yeah.
Now that's gonna happen. I'm gonna try that.
Awesome.
100%.
And
I've
to
never
be
heard of it. That's
yeah,
great.
and potato top as well. So when you say shepherd's pie, I think like potato top pie.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
but yeah,
nice.
yes,
Yeah, I'm definitely trying this. 100%. This looks delicious.
yeah,
Definitely definitely get on that.
yeah, awesome. And
Yeah.
we actually have there's actually like mini gourmet pies, which are like
Mhm.
they might have like I don't know like salmon or
Ooh.
venison or some kind of and they're smaller portions obviously because you don't want to eat too much of those rich foods, but yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I had so it was weird. There's a vegan place by me.
I guess
And I had for the first time a vegan fish and chips. I didn't even know that
okay.
existed, but it was so good. It literally tasted like fish, like it tasted straight like it. It was not it was not fish. It
Yeah.
was like it was a substitute to fish, but like
Mm.
it you couldn't even tell.
Yeah.
It was so good. So yeah, highly recommend it if you want to eat healthy too.
All right.
Get on
I'll
that. But
definitely have a look
I
at.
love it. I love a good salmon any day.
Yeah.
I love sushi. I'm a big sushi guy too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
Awesome. Oh, very good. Now, geez, I've already had breakfast, but now you're making me hungry. Hey,
Yeah, we
listen,
got
Zach.
topic here.
Yeah. So listen, I want to, I guess, firstly, thank you again for
Yeah.
coming on the show and sharing your message and I guess what you've uh, what you've been given in life, but how you've made that work for you. And I think that's really important because, we've all got situations or circumstances which we see as challenges in our own life. But if we can accept those challenges, if we can embrace them, they can actually help us and guide us towards our dream and allow us to really be ourselves, which is so important
Yeah.
for
Hundred
everyone,
percent, and
you know?
it's 100%. It really is. It's a journey, and it really it's things that change you may be different, but they're just different. They're just different quirks about you. They're just little different. Um, they're different things that make you unique. You
Yes,
know,
yes.
and when you figure out how to cope and work with those uniquenesses and make them work for you in a positive way, then all the best to you and all the best to just being the best success you can be. And I've learned that um, way early in my career, and that was the best advice that I can ever give in general. It's like you know work with what you have and try to make the best of it, and show everybody you know how powerful you can be in being creative and being, you know, smart and being, you know, being funny, bright, being like this. And then, you know, in general, for me, I've always wanted to be the center of attention, you know? So it's like really just trying to be, you know, that positive light in a business or just in a group setting, in a sense.
And in essence, it's just you being you.
Exactly. It is. It's you being you. It's you being yourself and expressing yourself in a way that only you can be. Yeah.
Hey,
And people will see you in the perfect light.
yeah. Thank you again, Zach.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.